Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Addie. I am a mom to 3 girls and I have been homeschooling my firstborn for about 3 years now, and I am about to go into the second year of homeschooling with my 3-year-old daughter for preschool. So I typically so far in my life have homeschooled the toddler preschool ages. And I was just like sitting down and I made a list of 10 things that I have learned through doing this experience, because I run into different people. I run into people who think it's really cool that I've done it. I think people who think I'm absolutely crazy and wonder why I would want to do it. And I wanted to share some of the things that I've learned so that if you are, thinking about doing this, or if you are in this and struggling, that hopefully some of these things might help you. So the first thing that I've learned is that school does not have to be all day, all the time, okay? You can fit school in whenever you can fit school in, and that's enough. A lot of times kids actually don't need more, especially at this younger age, don't need more than like 20 minutes, but in the older ages, more than like say an hour and a half of time sitting down with you learning from a book or like from whatever. You can use, and especially for me, like I'm a working mom, so I have to fit school in the early morning, at lunch times, after dinner, before bed, anywhere I can. So it was really good to learn, I guess, through myself that even though I was working, I could do homeschooling on my schedule, and it doesn't have to be an all-day thing. It doesn't have to be all the time. It can just be when you can. And then along with that, you don't have to do like every subject every day. So for example, right now I'm working, I do themes. So I might have one theme like the body, where most of the stuff we're doing is science-based. We'll still do maybe reading and math, but a lot of science in there. We don't really cover any geography or history or anything like that. And then there are other times, like say 4th of July, where we're very history focused. So we do things periodically throughout the year and not all the things all the time. So just knowing that you don't have to homeschool and do it all the time or do it all day, stuff like that. That would be the first thing that I learned. So the second thing is that they are learning even when they're not being schooled. And I think that goes really hand in hand with the first one of like, you don't have to sit with them all day and do homeschool, because they are learning even when you're not schooling them. So if you are cooking, they're learning. If they're outside playing in nature, they're learning. If they are building blocks, they're learning. They are learning doing all the things all day just in growing up. And that is just as important. So letting them, do other things and not being stuck at a desk is really important and a good way to learn. Going along with that is like my next one, which is follow their lead. So if they are super into dinosaurs, learn about dinosaurs, learn about the different prehistoric eras, and learn about bones and vegetation and volcano experiments and just all the things dinosaur, until they're onto something else and they want to learn something new. Maybe they want to learn about frogs, and you could do some leapfrog, or go to the creek and do some, hiking and exploring in the creek, and you can learn about the frog life cycles, So just pick whatever they're interested in. It could be as simple as asking them, like, what do you want to know more about? And go from there. So just trying to keep their interest as much as possible, which also all these kind of lead into each other, but leads to my next one, which is to make learning fun. And I basically try to make themes and units based on things that they are interested in. So I know that they're going to enjoy it. And so we try to do play-based learning instead of a ton of worksheets, even though we do some worksheets, but I still try to make them playful or manipulative of some sort. And if it's not providing joy to your life, then skip it. If you buy a curriculum and no one likes it, if you're having to like drag the kids by their collar, skip it. I know that's hard. You invest in some of those things, but it's just not worth it in the long run to do those things. So I would just say, make sure learning is fun. Next on my list, I think we're at 5, is that children learn differently and at their own pace. So You may have a child that's ready to do fractions at 4 and another one that's not ready until 14. So just knowing that each child is different. I know the 2 kids that I have are really different. I have one who was just dive in, retained everything. You could tell her once and she was ready to keep learning and build on. Another one who just is not so interested. And so I don't push her, and we just, you know, we'll do it at her pace. So just knowing that each kid is different and you may have to reevaluate and do things differently, and knowing that they might learn differently than you learn. And that's a really important thing too, because you might like to teach how you like to learn, which might be different than they like to learn. So it's just, it's a hard thing to grasp, but children just grow differently and you can't necessarily do all the same things with each one. The great thing about homeschool is that there really isn't a behind. You can't really fall behind. You are homeschooled. So as long as you're making progress, make progress without the frustration. Up next, number 6 is to have a routine and not a schedule. And I basically wrote out that I have tried all the different kinds of schedules, and if I miss a window, I feel like I can't stay on track and I'm all out of whack. So I like to just have a routine where I have things that we do kind of in an order, but if we are, you know, have an appointment at some time, we can go to that. We're not bound by the clock, because as long as we're in our routine, we can still jump in like right where we left off, if that makes sense. Next up, number 7 is it is okay to skip a day. Homeschooling should fit into our lives. Our lives shouldn't have to fit into homeschooling. I think I said that right. Right? But basically it doesn't have to be all or nothing. That's the beauty of homeschooling. And there are whole philosophies like based on unschooling where you literally do no formal like education. So you can just be confident then that no matter what you're doing, your child is learning. And if you skip one day, it's okay. You can be flexible. Number 8 is it's okay to use screens. I feel like when I first started homeschooling, that was something that I felt like I needed to like make sure that there were no screens, and I feel like you get judged if you do use screens, but at least in my opinion, it is totally okay to use screens. Now, I don't use them all the time, and my kids are like devils if they do use screens a lot. So I do try to limit screen time, but there are going to be hard days. There's going to be hard weeks. Like that, it's just inevitable and it's normal. It doesn't mean you're failing. It doesn't mean you can't homeschool. It's totally normal to have hard days or hard weeks, and you know why you're doing it. You can write down why you're doing it. You can remember why you're doing it, but knowing that there are bad days, knowing that it's okay to use screen time if you need it is fine. And I actually have a few learning apps that I really like. Homer is one that we're using right now. I will link it in the description. They have a free trial, so I'll put the free trial in the link. But using those apps, especially like for preschool, they find a way to make games into learning. So I think tablet time, like to do that sort of thing, is totally fine. And it kind of goes with like the next one on my list, which is to stop comparing, because what works for one family is not going to work for another, is going to work for another. So it's just finding what works for you and figuring out how much or how little screen time you might want to do or whatever. You have to do what works for your family. So that would be number 9. Stop comparing. Don't let other people make you think you're not doing enough. So for me, like a real worldwide example is like, for me, I do all kinds of activities with my kids. I plan themes, we do a craft, we do all the things, because I am horrible at pretend play. I suck at it. I hate it. When my kids are like, will you play babies with me? I'm like, oh, like I just am so bad at that. So I can come up with all the fun things, all the fun activities to do with them, because that is better for me. And I remember someone, you know, maybe a year or 2 ago now, who was like, I feel like I'm such a bad parent. I see these moms like you who just do all the things and they have all these activities and I don't do that at all. And I'm like, don't feel bad. Like, you're doing your things your own way. You're really good at something else and you have a different bond with your kid, and it's different than mine and it's different than theirs. So I just feel like to compare, we spend our lives comparing ourselves to other people, whether it's social media, whether it's like wherever, but I feel like you just have to stop doing that and just do what works for you. And lastly, number 10, my tip would be to get organized in a way that works for you. So I have done videos on my setup, my organization, all that kind of stuff. And I hope that that gives people inspiration and gives people a way to do things that might work for them because it works well for us. But you might start that system and it might not work. So you have to find a way that does work for you that is going to be helpful in your life. But I do think it is important to be organized, because if you don't have some sort of system when you're homeschooling, then you might print all these great resources. You might have all these great things to do, but then you don't do them because you don't have a system or you don't have a way. You forgot you printed this thing and then you never get to do it. So just, do what works for you. If you follow my stuff, I do themes, and I have themes in folders and then in bins. So I keep it all organized that way. That's my system. If that doesn't work for you, if it doesn't appeal to you, that's okay. And there's a system out there that will work for you, but that's an idea. You can use it or you cannot. I can go more in depth. I can do a video, more in depth on how I do that if you are interested in that. But I have like a folder on my computer for resources, and I have 50 folders of different themes, probably like 60 because I keep expanding themes, but and anytime I find a resource, I just put it in that folder on my computer. And so it's all organized, it's all right there. Whenever I'm doing a theme, it's either in a folder or it's printed in a folder, actual physical folder in like a bin or a box that I can easily pull out for that theme. So yeah, that is basically my system and how I do it and what works well for me, because it just is what works for me. But again, find an organization system that works for you and own it. So that's 10 things already. I could probably keep going on, but I just wanted to share those because we all homeschool for different reasons. We all find it hard for different reasons at different times, and sometimes just hearing that it's okay to take a break, it's okay to not follow a curriculum, it's okay to whatever it might be, is sometimes just the, camaraderie or thing that we needed to hear that day. And so hopefully some of these things resonate with you. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next video. That is all for today.